Hello and welcome back to the HH Gaming podcast brought to you by Hellhades.com. Today, as ever, I'm joined by co-host of the show, Paul. And we're coming to you after a couple of weeks. It's been a little while since we've recorded a podcast. We've been incredibly busy, and it would be unfair for us to put the podcast out at this time without mentioning, obviously, what's going on at the moment. Now, as everyone in the world will know right now, obviously, there's a war going on in Ukraine. What you may not know is that Polarium, who create content or create the game Raid Shadow Legends, are actually based out of Ukraine. So we've got a lot of people who we know through our community, both in Russia and Ukraine, who are massively affected by this, as well as the rest of the world. So although we're not a political podcast and we're not a political website and we don't want to get into that sort of thing, we do just want to send our thoughts to anybody who's been affected by this, because it is an absolutely horrible time for anyone to go through, and especially when you know people personally who are affected by this. It kind of brings it to the forefront. I think so many things go on in the world where you almost feel like you're in this bubble too, and it doesn't impact you as much as it should, and I think that's slightly unfair. But when this happens, and people who we work with on a daily basis are literally having to flee their homes in fear of safety for their families, it is absolutely horrendous. So anyone in the community from Ukraine, but also in Russia as well, because let's not pretend that this isn't affecting the Russian population as much as it is the Ukrainian as well. So it's a horrendous time. Please do stay safe, and obviously, if you are in the community and you need people to talk to, make sure you get involved in our Discord. There's always people there to talk to, and hopefully just take your mind off this situation at the moment.
We'll probably put a link in the description for this podcast if anyone is interested or trying to help or wants to help or support the individuals who are trying to almost defend their own country. I think we've had contact directly from Plarium about how we can help them and how we can support them. Obviously, Plarium are doing everything they can to support their staff and the people who live and are based in Ukraine. So obviously, as I echo the same thoughts. Hopefully they're safe. Hopefully this conflict is brought to an end quickly, peacefully, and basically with the Ukrainian people still safe and still independent. But as I said, we'll leave a description below if people want to support or want to help them out in any way. That's the place that we've been told is the best place for people to help out and support.
Yeah, so I think we put out a post on the HH Gaming website yesterday as well, which had a little bit of information that came directly from Polarium, along with a link to if you do want to support or just send your words to them. But I think it kind of highlights at the moment. We spend a lot of time being angry at Polarium, and I think a lot of the time we're angry at them because we care so much about the game. And I think situations like this kind of open up the reality that actually us being annoyed about a game doesn't change that these are people who we deal with on a daily basis. They've created a game that's created this amazing community that we support and love creating tools for. And then to see them in a situation where they're literally having to flee their homes out of fear,
fight for their lives.
Yeah, and
people forget we're gamers. We're not soldiers, and they're being asked to, defend their homeland, which I'm sure many of them are willing to do, but it's probably a very scary thing to do as well. So it's important that people empathize and people realize that they are exactly like us. They love games. They love developing games. They love creating cool things in games. They don't want this war, but they have no choice. So
it's scary that
it is worrying.
This is the sort of thing that happens in history books, and to see this unfolding.
We thought we were over this. Let's face it. Everyone in the European Union thought we won't have another Cold War. We won't have another World War. We won't be in this situation again. It's stuff that was resigned to the history books, as you've said it, but here we are again. So that's what we wanted to say a note to recognize the situation, but obviously we don't want to go into detail because we're not on the ground. We don't know what's going on. We don't want to misinform or
and as well as that, because of the position that we're in, we have people in our communities who are on both sides of the fence, and
Absolutely.
it puts us in a very difficult situation. And currently, I mean, in general, obviously we have our own personal opinions, but as a whole, we still support our community. So as long as the politics stays aside, if you're in Discord and you're chatting to people, please do bear that in mind, that there are people on both sides of this, and you know, not everybody's going to share the same opinion, but at the same time, just make sure that, you know, we're staying courteous to each other, because we're all part of the same community and we all enjoy the same things. But yeah, so let's move on from that. Obviously, we did want to make sure that we mentioned it. We couldn't put out a podcast this week and not talk about it, so I hope you do understand that. So
Let's talk about the game. Let's at least talk about something positive.
Let's talk about some of the things that we've been up to first, because I mean, I think it's been, what, 3 weeks since a podcast's been recorded. I think we put out a podcast.
It's been a while. We've been very busy.
Yeah, it's been 2 weeks since the podcast came out, but we actually recorded that one a week before it went out. So I think the last one that went out was the Catchup with Deadwood Jedi. So it has been a little while since we've actually sat down and been able to record this, and it's mainly because we're just insanely busy. A load of you will have seen like the rebrand that we've had across the board on the HH Gaming side of things. Yep. We've been working on all sorts of projects in the sort of sidelines where unfortunately we can't really talk about them yet, but you know, I think soon. Yeah, it's like coming soon, TM, you know. We got nominated, or in fact awarded, the fastest growing gaming company in the US in 2021, which kind of blew our minds. Which is funny actually, because me and Paul were actually sat, I think it was when we were recording a podcast, and I got this email and we thought it was spam.
And then one of those, like, you know, a distant relative has unfortunately passed away and has left $21 million for you. Fill in this form, which is not suspicious at all, with all your confidential information, and we'll send that money straight to your bank account. It's like, yes, of course you will.
What confused me is they weren't asking for anything, but what they had done is there was an attachment to the email, and I'm skeptical about any attachment. If I don't know who sent me the email, I am not opening any attachments. And that goes for people who email us from the community. If you send me an email which has got a screenshot or something like that of a team that you're trying to rebuild and things like that, take it to Discord, because it's so easy to fall trap to these phishing emails and viruses that are attached. And the problem is the people who are sending them out are so intelligent. You know, they're able to mask the email that they're sending it from. They're able to embed these codes within PDFs and things like that. It's no longer the world where you had to go in and actively download something and you know, do something silly to actually infect your computer. And so unfortunately, I don't touch anything that comes into that email that's got an attachment to it. But so we basically ignored it. We thought it was a load of spam. Yeah, thought it was a load of junk.
Turns out.
Yeah, and then
no, it wasn't.
Yeah, a week later, I got an email saying not only had you been nominated, we'd actually won. And so the company that do this thing every year, it's called the Digital 100. It's a company called SimilarWeb. And they're basically like an SEO kind of company. They look at
it's traffic. Like Alexa, right? Not like the
Amazon
one, but the actual website tracking one, where it like, kind of tracks, you know, who's the best website and ranking and all that kind of stuff. They're a bit like that.
And it basically turned out that our growth last year, which we knew it was good, and we knew it was strong. But to grow
to the community who keeps coming back for our content and really finds it valuable and helps, and all the ideas about improving have really just kind of catapulted our website to.
But yeah, we had an annual growth of 4,500%.
It's only a little bit
in 1 year.
A small amount.
Yeah, tiny amount, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's amazing. But it has opened up, you know, that growth over last year has opened up a load of doors for us as a business. And you know, Simon, Paul, and I, and the rest of the team have been working hard to make sure that 2022. We focus on growth, we focus on new projects, and as well as that, focus on improving the stuff that we're bringing to the community as well. So I think, you know, you guys probably will have seen some of the things that we're bringing to the optimizer as of late, as well as that, the overhaul of the website. And we're now going through and looking at some of the content that's maybe outdated on the site that we can improve and bring up to speed, and hopefully just bring more to the community to thank, I guess, everyone for the effort that they put in and allowing us to be in the position we are, because we are lucky. We are absolutely lucky. I guess although the 18-hour days, and I mean, I stopped working at 3 o'clock this morning. I think I started work yesterday at 9 and worked through to 3 o'clock this morning. And, it's difficult to really make it feel like work, because a lot of it is playing computer games and talking about computer games and talking to people in the community. But after you do it for nearly 2 years, yes, it is work. And
it's that thing that Hellhades keeps saying to us, which is, it's funny how we started doing this job because we wanted to play computer games more, but now we actually don't have time to play computer games because
it's insane.
We just talk about it and make stuff around it and develop stuff on it, but actually stop playing it somewhat.
Yeah, and
it's funny how that works.
Even when you're playing the games, it's like you've always got it in the back of your mind. Oh, I could create content on that. I should probably record this bit. I should probably have this up.
We should probably send this out to someone.
Yeah, we should.
It's a great keyword.
Yeah. Have we got an article on this? Because it's like you see people posting teams, like just as an example, the other day, Elvo posted that team in our so Elvo is somebody who does our takeovers, part of our takeovers team. Showed a really cool team, which was kind of a take on the Demitha comp, but it was using 2 Seekers and it was 1 keying Ultra Nightmare. And I'd never seen it before. I thought it was like, that is so cool. Like, why are we not shouting about that? So stay tuned, because I'm sure there will be something on that in the future. But it's a really cool comp that I just hadn't seen before. So although we're years into the making of this, we're still finding
always something we haven't done.
Still stuff coming
always
up.
Something new, which is a great thing about Rage, about the game, is there's always a different way or a different approach or a different thing that you can do, and not everything is going to work. But at times you can come away with things, and I didn't even think that was going to work. I mean, the video I released a couple of days ago on, maybe been a week ago, on Gwyneth, one of the Doom Tower epics.
Yeah.
I only really thought she was going to be good in
maximum healing.
I thought she was going to be really good in Clan Boss, obviously for the A3. I didn't really appreciate how strong her healing was, and I actually used her in the end in that build, which is really glass cannon, all the way from like one Doom Tower hard 110 all the way through, and I even used her on the boss. Which is insane. I was like, she's just going to die, surely. She's not going to be. But the fact that she was able to like keep going AoE, the damage was good on the AoE. She was healing everyone. She was doing it was actually really good. And I was actually quite surprised. Obviously, not everyone can get her that quickly because of the time it takes, but it's that kind of thing where you think, yes, everyone is using their Kaimars and their Sayers. Sometimes not having a Sayer doesn't mean you can't do content. I mean, I basically swapped out my Sayer for a Gwyneth, and it worked just as well.
I think as well as that, it's almost the assumption that you can only complete content if you've got these ultimate champions. And actually, although
Hydra is probably the only place right now in the game where if you don't have a Duchess, it's really hard. It's really limiting if you don't have it. There are alternatives, but those alternatives are not great.
2 years playing, I've spent. I don't even want to repeat how much I've spent on Raid Shadow Legends. I do, and that's the problem, because I have to record everything from my accountant. So I do know exactly how much I've spent. And I've got no Siphi, no Duchess, no Rotos. I do have Kaimar, so that helps. But
lucky you. I've gone for 2 times 10 Kaimars.
No Krisk. I mean, I basically
talking of Krisk.
No Trunder.
Talking of Krisk.
So whaling isn't everything.
Times 10 right now is a bit juicy, isn't it?
He is, yeah. So I mean, let me just pull this up, because I mean,
obviously we didn't get the announcement like we do. It's the first time actually in a long time that we've kind of like woken up to, I wonder what the times 10 is.
Yeah, and it's not just a times 10. We've also got a guaranteed championship in there as well. So I'll be honest though, I don't know much about her. So
So for obviously those who haven't checked yet in the game, I mean, they probably would have by now, because by the time this podcast goes out,
Yeah, so the
would have
podcast
logged
hopefully
in.
be out on Sunday, so I think be on the last day of
This is very much like an ally protectors type of times 10. You've got what I call the best ally protector in the game in Kyoku that you can get. That's one of the newer champions. She's in there with Tyrant. Lugan's not bad. He's probably really dated and he's a bit of a weird. Tyrant's actually really good.
I've always really liked Tyrant.
He's very good,
and
especially because of his passive. 10% less damage if they're under HP burn on a Hydra is quite big.
I saw a video, and I can't remember where it was. I think it was it may have been Boomer or somebody on Twitch was streaming it, and their Tyrant was soloing Spider 20.
He can solo everything pretty much.
And I think it was probably 6-7 months ago, maybe even a year ago that I saw it. And since then, I've just always wanted him as a champion because he's just really cool. Because I thought, well,
yeah,
Spider, you can farm money in the game, and if he can solo it, chuck in food with him, he can farm up 4 food at the same time in Spider.
He's a really good
and
champion.
It's just like, that is awesome.
He's basically the HP burn version of the Sulf the Grim.
Yeah,
they do exactly the same thing, but he does the HP burn with that passive, which means you take 10% less damage when there's a HP burn out, and he pretty much always has it out. So it's really strong. So we've got that kind of like ally protection theme. We've got the new Void Epic in there, which is Andresia, which I call female Tyrell, because it literally looks like female Tyrell. And she's got one hell of a looking ass.
She does actually, doesn't she? I see that now. Yeah, that's a very cool skin, actually.
Which she's actually not bad. I just don't know whether you actually have much use. Like her A3 is actually quite unique in the sense that she has the ability to reduce the duration of all enemy buffs by 2 turns. So that's pretty much a buff removal in most scenarios.
Yeah.
Because it's all buffs for 2 turns, which is quite strong. The problem with her though is just her passive being on a 5-turn cooldown means that, realistically, she's designed to be like a budget Necret.
Yeah.
So she takes a turn, she places ally protection out for 2 turns. She doesn't do it before anyone else takes a turn like Necret, but at the start of her turn, she'll place an ally protection on the person with lowest HP. And then she buffs herself. Now, really, in an ideal world, that needs to be a lot less than 5 turns to be useful. I could see some viability in kind of having like a staged Necret, in the sense that, every time she takes a turn, she puts another ally protection out. Eventually, she's going to protect everyone, and then it's too late. So you have to kind of like go in the mentality of, if I let her get going, then I have some problems. But her damage is actually quite good. So unfortunately, I pulled my voids and I got 7 rays. So there's disappointment. But actually, she's pretty good to go for, as well as Krisk. Now, Krisk is a beast. He's the god. He just does too much.
The Ninja Turtle himself.
He is the epitome of, oh, whoops, guys, we put too much in one champion.
Yeah, I just love Krisk. And
you don't see champions like him released anymore, apart from Yumiko. Yumiko is the only other one that I've seen that have released, and you just go, and that?
Yeah.
Oh, and he's got that as well. I mean, literally, this guy's got an AoE decrease speed on his A1. He's got an AoE ally protect, AoE continuous heals, AoE buff extension, AoE provoke, AoE increase speed on everyone except himself.
Yep.
And he's got passive decreased attack and decreased defense. It's just, it's always the same thing that I say to people.
It's disgusting.
If you get a Krisk at level 1 in this game, you have won the game because he can literally go in any team, in any scenario, in any situation, and he will win the game for you, because he is just...
I would love to see an early game account just with Krisk, and just see how far...
solo half of campaign.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, like how far that guy can just solo. A fresh account, fresh gear, everything. You only run Krisk. I want to know how far that guy can take you in the game.
So that's the times 10, which I think is actually a very good times 10. There's lots of great options, even if you don't get the Krisks or the things. Kyoku is a great option. And even, I would actually point out as a big thing here, for anyone who is still working their way through to get Lydia, the 21 faction wars for Shadowkin is the ignore defense boss. And that basically means if you want to do that to a 3-star rating, you either need to have the really OP legendaries like Ninja with someone like Jintoro, so you can like drop that turn meter. That's how I managed to do it. or you're going to need to bring some sort of ally protection. Now, Taragi is a good option, but the champion in the ×10, Konoiki, I can never say her name, she's effectively a budget Kyoku in the sense that if her HP drops below 50%, she will get a block damage. So you can build her almost like incredibly slow and hope that she gets hit once. And then she's got that block damage, so she can hopefully stay alive. So she's a great option. She's also got ally protection. She's also got a leech, and she's also got a weaken as well. So it's a really good epic. So even if you don't get the legendaries, if you pull out a Kanoiki, a Sandlash, they're very good options. Even Broodlord, I actually think is a lot better than people give him credit for. He just needs decreased speed with him. So you pair a Broodlord with like a Mother Sibel, or you pair a Broodlord with some like Sylar or Krisk, and then everything in his kit works much better because the decreased speed is already out there. And then you're talking, an AoE, 85% chance to stun. That's a pretty good chance. There's not many AoE stuns in the game.
No, absolutely not.
He's a great champion. But of course, the other thing with this ×10, which is unique, is there is a guaranteed epic. And I actually think for 40 Ancients, it's not a bad pickup.
How do you say her name?
Theresk.
Oh, she looks
not the rest.
No, not the rest.
The problem with this champion is the
Resk.
The face gives me the heebie-jeebies.
Right, yeah. So she's got a crazy face.
Like she's got like weird crying things
she has
out of
got
her face while smiling.
Bow that's cooler than ninjas, and she's got 3 arrows. Come on. This is multitasking at its best. She's
a little bit, as Hellhades would say, chilly going on in the back as well.
Let's have a look.
It's a bit, borderline. So obviously,
we'll have to get Joel to edit this into the
it's like
podcast so that you guys can see it as well. But
so I think this champion is obviously the first and only AoE, only decreased resistance champion. Obviously, this is a buff and a debuff that they've added in the last couple of patches. The last patch we had Beauregard the Elder as the legendary increased resistance. This champion is effectively the epic copy of Beauregard, in the sense that she doesn't quite do it 100% of the time. She has that weird passive, like Beauregard's passive means that you take less damage. She'll do more damage to targets that have a lower resistance. Now, the irony of that passive is it's always going to happen, even without the decreased resistance out, probably, because in order for you to apply the decreased resistance, you're going to need to have more accuracy than the enemy's resistance. So it's almost like you don't actually need to worry about landing the debuff for that to work. Her damage is not really good enough to be a nuker. In that sense, she's all single target. She's probably pretty good for Fire Knight.
We need to see a Hellhades ultimate damage. Maximum damage. Yeah.
Maximum damage. Get it right at maximum damage.
Yeah, I'd be honest. I've heard that so many times. I can't believe I just got it wrong.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think if anyone's on the fence about it, for 40 Ancients, it's actually not a bad pickup because the thing is, we don't know what's coming in the next Hydra setups.
And we've still got a few weeks until the next Ancient summon. So I think the next Ancient
40 is not
midway
to
through
get.
March.
40 is not if it was like 100 or something like that nature, or like 75, I'd be saying it's a little bit more. But 40 Ancients is not a terrible thing to pull for, to get an epic that it's the only champion in the game that can do this debuff. So you just don't know what situation you might need that debuff in. You might as well pick it up so you've got it there for 40 Ancients, and then if you get one of the legendaries from the ×10s on the way, great. If not, then it's not the end of the world. But I actually, now that I've got her, I'm going to do a bit of play testing, see what kind of damage numbers I can get out of her. When I did the estimation,
we want to see her for science.
Yeah, when I did the numbers, she didn't look that substantial in terms of damage. Now, obviously, the decreased resistance is an AoE.
Yeah.
And as I said, as her passive, she'll need more accuracy than the enemy's resistance to place the debuff anyway. It's kind of like a moot point. She's going to have that up anyway. The problem is going to be, can you build enough accuracy and damage to make her a nuker? Probably not. which means then you go down the debuffer route, and then does she have enough extra stuff in the kit to really make it worth?
Sure. You need to pick almost one or the other with her build, I guess.
And the other thing I was thinking about this morning when this was announced was, is there actually anywhere in the game where there's like one place in the game where I can think of that resistance is an extreme scenario, and that's Sorath. And that's because she needs HP burn, otherwise she gains an extra plus whatever a level is. So on the top of her rotation, it's like 800 accuracy. It's 800 resistance or 600 resistance, something like that. But it's kind of like, are you going to be able to build Thrask to actually survive and also have enough accuracy to kind of mitigate that? Or do you just build a HP burn anyway? Like most people will build a very slow Drexar just so that when she attacks, she places HP burn. Right? That's how I do it. Mine's about 140 speed, but he's got 600 accuracy, and then if she gets burnt, then he's got way too much. So that's the only thing I can think of in the game right now where you would be benefiting from decreasing the enemy's resistance. But perhaps you might be able to reduce the weight of build requirements for certain areas. So the one area I'm thinking of is Bommel, where you need accuracy alongside, you probably need resistance. If you go the route I went in terms of decrease accuracy on the enemy, and then I have enough resistance myself, then potentially a decreased resistance debuff means you don't need as much accuracy in those builds to land the effects you need to enable all the rest of the stuff, if that makes sense. So I can, instead of having to go for something like a 400 resistance, 400 accuracy build, I can go a 400 resistance, 200 accuracy build.
Which could make a massive difference to players who are struggling to reach those sort of limits.
Most players, like, here's the thing now, because we've got Great Hall upgraded, right? So you get 80 from your Great Hall. If you've got your Faction Guardians in, you get like, I think, is it 15 or 35? I always mix it up with Empowerment. So like from a legendary point of view, you get a 30, and then epic you get 15, right? So you're already at like 100 accuracy before you get started. Every champion tends to have like anywhere between 15 to 30. So now you're at 130. If you get a good amulet with a double roll, you're now at like plus 40 with a glyph. So before you realize it, 200 accuracy doesn't require you to dedicate a banner or a chest to one of those pathways, meaning you could dedicate more to resistance, get slightly more damage in your build, slightly more defensive capabilities. Whereas if you don't have that, the moment you step over that 300 accuracy threshold, now you're going beyond just a couple of perception sets. You're now saying, well, I probably need a banner or a chest piece to hit those numbers, or I need some substantial triple and quad rolls to do that. So that's potentially a good place to play her. That's why I think she's worth the 40 Ancients. You don't know if you're going to use her, but for the cost of 40 Ancients, pick up the champion that's the only champion can do it, in case you come into a situation where you go, do you know what, it'd be really handy if I didn't need to build double the amount of accuracy that I've got here.
Sure.
Because she does do it on, I think, a regular basis. And she also has the ability to extend it, right? So she's going to put it on a 2-turn cooldown, on a 2-turn duration on a 4-turn cooldown, but on a single target, A1 hits twice. It's got a, was that 30, 40, 45, which is a bit of a weird number. No, was it 50?
Which one are we looking at here? So the
Thrask.
So no. So the A1 has it hits 2 times and has 25% chance, which books up to
is it 45, right?
45% chance of
basically
increasing a random debuff, though.
That's it's a bit of a problem. It's
random's always a scary one.
But at least she's got some built-in ability to try and increase the duration. She's probably a candidate,
and it's it's a likely chance. It's a 2 times hitter, 45%. I mean, it doesn't make it 90%, but let's face it, one of them made.
And you could probably put her in a reflex and disable the A2 if you don't really care for removing buffs, especially in a situation like Bommel where you can't remove buffs, right? So you might as well just disable the A2, put her in a reflex so she keeps getting that A3 back.
That's quite cool, actually. That's a pretty good use.
She's flexible. Is she the best epic in the game? No, 100% not. No. Is she weak? She's not even 100% chance to land that decreased resistance, which is again a problem.
But as you say, though, it's this thing that she has this unique ability that
nobody else can do.
Yeah, but we just don't know where it's going to be useful yet. But you know, at the end of the day, for 40 shards, if you got them kicking around, you've got enough time to collect you know, nearly that again, but before the next 2 times. So
I myself had about 35 this morning. I got 1 from Clan Boss.
Yeah,
I literally bought 3 gems, the 3 ancients for gems, and then I just paid the 79 pence for the daily shard. So I managed to pick up that epic
for 79 pence.
79 pence, you know, because we've just ended a fusion. We're probably not going to get another fusion now. Well, I would imagine the fusion cycle will continue despite everything that's going on.
Yeah, I'm sure that they've got things in the
queue, because they have come out and said that, you know, they expect no disruption or things to the things they've got planned in the coming months and weeks. Things that might, you know, patches might be a bit delayed or a bit lighter than normal, but we're not going to have a fusion probably for another week at least.
No.
So,
but I think the one thing that we won't
not
have
the end of the world
is news on when it's coming out. So for those of you who sort of want to know the news as soon as it drops, obviously we know that Polarium have said that they probably won't be able to relay the news as quickly as they would usually. So
we don't know when they're going to be back in the offices right now. So we'll probably get the information like the old ways, like 2 years ago, before we had content creator channels and little leaks and things. We're probably going to get the information as it launches in game.
But make sure you do go over to our website, because obviously we do have a team that works full time on this. So as soon as we hear the information drop, we will be letting the community know as quickly.
We're going to do everything we can to keep everyone updated on all the things that are going on for Polarium, as well as any information that drops in the game, to try and help keep the player base communicated with the game and understanding what's going on. Obviously, we can't know in advance what's going to happen, but as soon as we do, we'll get that information out there. But for 40 ancients, I think, you know, it's not a bad time to pull it. You get a guaranteed champion. The guaranteed events tend to be pretty valuable, unless the champion's not desirable. You've already got it. And if, as I said, if you manage to pick up one of the other champions along the way, one of the ally protectors, if you manage to get a Chris, congrats, you're winning life.
Tell me about it, right?
You know, that's not a bad thing to do. You know, that's great. So,
but awesome. Okay, well, I think we'll wrap up the podcast there, guys. Obviously, we are back with our weekly podcast now. Fingers crossed.
We keep saying that.
We do keep saying that.
Podcast as regularly as we can.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good way to put it. But obviously, we do aim to get a podcast recorded once every week. If we don't, and you do miss the podcast each week, obviously, Paul puts out his For Science Club as well on the channel, so make sure that you tune into those. But we will just try and keep these coming as quick as often as we possibly can. Obviously, we've been recording them since, I think it was June last year that we started, maybe May last year that we started. So we've actually, so we are going on for a year now that we've been doing this podcast, and I do really enjoy having these catch-ups and reading what you guys have your opinions on in the comments. So make sure you do let us know in the comments down below if there is something that you agree with, disagree with, or anything that you want us to talk about in these podcasts. Also, anybody that you'd like to potentially see on the podcast, because obviously we've had Deadwood Jedi, we had Hellhades on as often as he possibly can do. We had Senti on a couple of weeks ago as well, which was amazing to see his point of view. But if there's anyone else in the community that you would like us to reach out to see if they want to come on and chat to us, we're absolutely open to that. But yeah, until the next podcast, guys, make sure you like, subscribe, all that stuff, and we will see you in the next video.